to understand what they're looking for in general for the talent screener and the work style, and perhaps how to answer them, the best way to answer them to get hired as a firefighter?
Yes, yes. Okay, well, let's start with the talent screen. I don't know if I'll get through both assessments today. It took me a whole hour with Mark, but let's start and then we can have a look at it. Do you want me to read the question out, or do you want me to just read it myself and then look at the answers?
You can read the statement and I can give you the answer.
Okay, so you've had a very busy week responding to a number of incidents, as well as completing a number of demanding training exercises. You're physically and mentally tired. Today, after another set of quite demanding training exercises, your supervisor tells everyone to relax for the rest of the afternoon and get some well-deserved rest. You're tired, but know there are some routine administration tasks you still need to complete. A, get straight back to the activities you have scheduled for the day and try to complete them even though you are tired. Take some time to relax and then get back to your own work and tasks once you are well rested. Or C, go along with instructions from your supervisor, as nothing urgent needs doing anyway. So which one? Yes?
Yeah, for me, they're all like good answers, and I'm looking for the best one. For my personality, I would answer letter A. Get straight back to the activities you had scheduled for the day and try to complete them even though you're tired, because they're scheduled. So it means if I don't get them done today, then it might mess something up tomorrow. That's in my way of thinking.
So this is the one question I actually took note of to send to Brent, because I had this discussion with Mark. Mm-hmm. So with a situational judgment test like this, you have to know what the company is actually trying to measure.
Okay.
So I also had a feeling it could be A, because it's been scheduled and you just need to get it done. But depending on depending on how serious the activity is, and if you are too tired and you can't actually complete the activity properly when you're tired, then B might be the correct answer.
So we're applying to be firefighters. So if it says completing a number of demanding training exercises, so it might have been very strenuous.
Yes.
So we'll stick with B then.
Look, it's something that I have noted to take up this question with Brent as well. So I'd look at A, it's A or B. And because I didn't create the test, I can't actually give you the 100% correct answer. But just take note that with SJTs, there isn't only one correct answer. So there might be a second best correct answer, which will still get some marks for, not all the marks. Okay. Are you happy with that question? Can I move on?
Yes, no problem. Thank you.
Okay. You have recently taken part in a routine training exercise on using the firefighting hose and noticed a colleague could improve significantly on their technique in order to provide more efficiency in running out the hose to its full length. After each training drill, there is the option to debrief as a team and review performance. Hose running is a critical part of the role in order to be ready as quickly as possible to extinguish a fire. And it is important that everyone in the team is at the required standard, but you don't want to embarrass your colleague. So A, you follow the lead of your team to see if they offer advice or feedback to your colleague, as there will be other training opportunities. B, you approach the individual and highlight your observations and suggest a direction, letting your supervisor know what actions are being taken. Or C, you tell your supervisor that you think there may be a problem and leave it with them to deal with in the most appropriate way.
I would choose C. Tell your supervisor that you think there may be a problem and leave it with them to deal with in the most appropriate way.
So I think the answer is actually B. Mm-hmm. So with firefighting, obviously there's also a lot of teamwork involved. Yeah. However, you have to let your supervisor know as well. So you approach the individual and highlight your observations and suggest a direction. So you give them some advice and feedback. would you also let your supervisor know that you've also given them advice? So it's a best of both. Does that make sense?
Yes. So by doing letter B, you foster teamwork and communication within the team, and you also did not miss out on the chain of communication because you still went to your supervisor, right?
Yes, correct.
These are pretty tricky questions.
It it just depends. So like a personality assessment's easier because it is kind of just who you are. Now you have to actually just think about it a little bit more. But the more practice you take, the better, the easier it gets.
Okay. Gotcha. So for roles, for highly involved and committed roles like firefighting, I think it's best if we select answers that are offering solution from our point of view, but also still respecting the chain of command, something like that.
Yes. So you have to always respect chain of command, irrespective of if it's a firefighter or a normal corporate organization. It's also in that question also, it's just about highlighting that your colleague might not be up to scratch. It's also alerting a supervisor on that, if that makes sense. Okay, then your team are asked to participate in an operational training activity focused on improving the competency of a teammate in preparation for promotion. There are several areas that are more important for the promotional role than your teammates' current roles. So you know that they will want to particularly focus on these during the activity. You know the promotion is an important opportunity for your teammate, and the training activity could be really useful. However, you have never participated in anything like this before and you're unsure how to approach it. So A, you actively participate and pay particular attention to the areas important to your teammate's new role so you can offer detailed feedback. B, you contribute to the activity as part of your team and be sure to offer your teammates support and encouragement afterwards. You try to make the training activity as challenging as possible in order to really test your teammate, as this is the only way they're going to learn what they need to improve.
I'm rereading the passage. Really important for your team. Training activity is very useful. Okay, so I think C.
Okay, why do you think C?
Because we're also going for a promotion, so maybe if we up the ante and help the team, become better and test them, then that's the best way. I'm actually confused between C and A.
So the answer is actually A. Okay. So it is tricky. Okay, so let's just go through this properly. So your team are asked to participate in an operational training activity focused on improving the competency of a teammate in preparation for promotion. So essentially, your team is asked to pretty much fake play in a training activity, and the purpose of that fake play in a training activity is to prepare your teammate for promotion. Okay. So if you choose C, so C could be the second best answer because you obviously want to make it as challenging as possible in order to really test your teammate so that they can learn. However, in A, you're actually giving your teammate feedback.
So it's more constructive.
Yes. Does that make sense to you?
Yes. No, it does.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and the next, yes?
I can read this one so you can rest your voice.
Okay.
So your crew responded to an incident where the light plane had come off the runway. There are 5 people on board. You can't see any evidence of fire, and your supervisor instructs the crew to approach the plane to help the passengers leave. You realize the engines are still running, and standard operating procedure is to wait until shutdown of the engine has occurred before approaching the aircraft. You believe your supervisor's instruction may pose a potential risk to the team, but he has been very clear with his instructions. So what do? Letter A, you speak to your supervisor directly and advise them that the engines are still running. B, tell your team to stay in place until the engines are shut down in line with operating procedures. C, proceed as instructed and ignore your concerns, as the highest priority is to act as a team to get the passengers off the plane. My answer here would be letter A.
Okay, why letter A?
Yes, they are my supervisor and they do deserve my obedience, but SOP is that an engine should be shut down, so that's an SOP for a reason. And during emergencies, there are a lot of things to take note of, and the supervisor may have neglected or failed to realize that the engines are still on because they're handling a lot of things at the same time. So I'll just remind them that, hey, sir, the engines are still running. Maybe we can wait a little until it's off and have everyone go down the plane.
So this question could be A or B, depending on what they are measuring. So for example, if a supervisor doesn't act in accordance with the safety operating procedure, do you follow your supervisor, or do you still follow the safety operating procedure that you were trained to do?
Mm-hmm. I would follow the operating procedure.
Then the answer would be B.
Tell your team to stay in place. Okay. But what happens if we don't tell the supervisor? What happens to the other teams? That's the reason why I chose A.
Okay.
Like, I'm not so sure with how firefighters do it, but working in the hospital before, or actually in any setting, in the corporate setting, if there is a mistake, I usually approach the person directly and not correct them in front of everyone. So that's the reason I selected A. But do you think B is more?
So I would definitely say A in a corporate environment, but this is a safety operating procedure, so it's a little bit more different.
I see. Okay.
What I would say then is also ask Brent for a second opinion. Mm-hmm. So normally safety in firefighting overrules anything.
Okay.
That is quite a tricky question though. Mm-hmm. And one of those two will be the second best option, but I think ask Brent. Okay. So for example, in some organizations, chain of command might be more important, while other organizations, safety might be more important.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay, I'll read the next question.
Okay.
Now, you have noticed that a colleague consistently receives more training opportunities than you do and is progressing faster. You have requested to undertake training several times, but your supervisor has said to wait a little longer as too many other people are undergoing training and they don't have time to supervise you as well. Letter A, keep applying for training opportunities, hoping that your supervisor would see how serious you are. B, explain why you are so determined and ask your supervisor when they would have time to supervise your training. C, wait for your supervisor to offer you the opportunity for training now that they know you are interested. I think from the passage that on the last part that the person is not being offered training, not because there's favoritism, but I think he's just progressing slower than the other colleague. So maybe if I were in his place, I would probably explain why I'm so determined and ask my supervisor if they would have the time to supervise my training.
Yes, B is correct. And just to go through it properly, so C, by waiting for your supervisor to offer you an opportunity, that's probably never going to happen. Mm-hmm. You can keep applying for training opportunities, but then you also use the word hoping. Your supervisor will see how serious you are. But actually explaining why you want to go on the training, it'll hit home with the supervisor, as well as then asking your supervisor when they'll have the time to supervise your training holds them accountable to actually give you the training one day.
Okay. Perfect. I can do this one too.
Okay.
Your supervisor has delivered a request to you from headquarters. The team needs to complete an activity that will assess how ready the team is to respond to an emergency situation, and if they meet the recommended responses times. The operational preparedness assessment requires the crew to undertake routine activities. The assessment will take quite a lot of time to set up and run, which you had not taken into account when scheduling work this week. If you undertake the assessment, it will make it challenging to complete the other tasks you have scheduled. So, what do we do? A, proactively seek clarity on exactly what is needed and provide assistance to ensure all tasks are accomplished. Um, Attempt to complete the assessment if you have the time after the scheduled activities as you know they are important. C, complete the tasks as directed. Headquarters must have a reason for it, so it's better to just get it done. My answer would be letter A, to
Yes, correct.
priority. Yep. So I can prioritize which needs to get done.
Yes, and also just make sure that you are doing it the correct way.
Okay. Noted.
Okay. Do you want to carry on, or must I start talking?
Oh, you can rest for a bit more.
Okay.
You have had a lot of non-work related issues to deal with over the last few weeks. You have noticed a slight drop in your work performance recently, affecting the pace at which you are working and your motivation for routine tasks. You feel it is because some of the issues you are dealing with at home. Nothing serious has happened, but you fear that people will soon begin to notice. You are tempted to talk to a colleague or of your supervisor. I think this is or your supervisor, but really don't know what to say. A, speak to your colleague at work, but ask them not to say anything as you believe you will be able to deliver on most tasks. You will raise it if you feel it becomes a safety risk. B, speak to your supervisor, explaining what's been going on and that while you can complete your tasks, you're concerned about fully pulling your weight in the team. C, concentrate on continuing with your assigned tasks at work. Things will sort themselves out without having to involve anyone else. I would go with letter B because it's communication and it's part of life to talk to cope with the stresses, regardless if it's not, you know, affecting your work. It might eventually, so it's good when people understand so they can help you sort it out, perhaps.
Yes, definitely. And also B, because you'd rather speak to your supervisor than colleagues. At least your supervisor is alert to it. And you are working in a hazardous, dangerous environment. So if something does go wrong and you're not 100% on the ball, the supervisor can also just monitor that.
Okay, perfect. And then next, you have been called to a large and complex structural fire as part of a bigger team. There are several crews attending the incident. You are assigned by a key role in the rescue team and will be coordinating the actions of several other crew members. You find that you're physically struggling, although you know you shouldn't be. A, recognize that you have been allocated a key role and that you're responsible for completing it regardless of your physical state. B, you immediately raise the issue with your supervisor and follow instructions. C, you request that someone more physically capable to do the job as you don't want to be responsible for if anything goes wrong. I would choose B.
B, correct, yeah. Do you understand why? I'm assuming, do you want me to go through it?
Like you mentioned earlier, the supervisor can help monitor your status, and at least that way there's clear communication, especially since safety is involved.
Correct. Okay.
Next, you have had a difference of opinion with a colleague in relation to maintenance in a fire vehicle. You feel your teammate is not pulling their weight and is more concerned with finishing the work in time for lunch than performing the maintenance to the standard expected. Given how critical response times are in an emergency, it is important that the vehicles are always in good condition and ready to be used. A, explain to the individual the impact of poor maintenance and the importance of attention to detail to ensure equipment works properly. B, confront your colleague and tell him that he needs to take the job more seriously and make sure he does his fair share of the work. C, let your colleague go to lunch and finish the job yourself. That way you know the work will be done to a high standard. I would explain to my colleague, letter A, the impact of poor maintenance, and the importance of attention to detail to ensure equipment works properly. I'm not choosing B because confront is such a strong word and it's negative. And for letter C, I won't just leave them B because yes, I can probably do the job to a higher standard, but what if I'm not around and that person is partnered with somebody else and they're not pulling their weight? It might affect someone else too.
So yeah, so A is definitely correct and your explanations are spot on. Just with regards to your explanation for B, why it's not as effective as A is, yes, confront is a strong word, but by confronting the person, you're almost like attacking them and just telling them to take the job more seriously. In A, you're actually explaining the underlying importance of the job.
Gotcha.
So it's more likely to motivate and hit home.
Okay. You have been on the job for a few weeks and you have returned from a routine training drill involving the trucks. When you get back to the station, you walked behind the truck as it was reversing into the parking bay. A more experienced colleague criticized your behavior in front of the rest of the crew as being unsafe. They told you to never do that again. You feel quite embarrassed about the incident as you had been watching the truck and hadn't thought you were in any danger. A. Ask if you can speak to your colleague in private as you're worried that their criticism will make our team think you are not coping. B. Say nothing at the time to your colleague, but remember not to do it in future. C. Thank your colleague for their comments and think about what you should do differently in future situations. I would say C. It was my mistake after all.
Yes. So C is definitely the correct one. And even though if everyone has a potential to feel embarrassed, it's still a safety operating procedure as well. So it does need to be addressed. Mm-hmm. And your colleague was actually helping you out. So it's also about understanding your colleague's intentions.
Correct. Okay. Next, you are assisting in delivering a training course to pilots in the role of aviation rescue firefighters. Outside the training room, you hear another member of your team shouting at a colleague about a recent disagreement and making a lot of noise. You're concerned that this reflects badly on the station. You go outside and ask them to be quiet, and they respond by getting more agitated and speaking even more loudly. So A, you ask them again firmly to be quiet and to keep their arguments to themselves. B, realizing that they are clearly upset, you adapt your approach and ask them what's wrong and request they approach the supervisor. C, tell them there are visitors and then return to the training room as you're worried about making the situation worse. I would probably go with B. You try to understand the situation first, and then you try to adapt your approach so they don't get agitated, and then ask for a supervisor to sort things out. Because I don't know. They're probably the right person to say stop rather than me, just a colleague.
Yes, and also you also need to get back to delivering the training course.
Yeah, and that.
Yes, okay.
And then next, you have been called to a special staff meeting. Your supervisor tells the team that he has just heard that the CEO will be visiting to provide the monthly executive briefings to staff and present a service certificate to your colleague. The visit is due to occur tomorrow, and this is the first time the CEO is visiting the station. Your supervisor is keen to ensure that the visit goes well. The award your colleague is receiving is rarely given out, and in addition to the CEO, there will be visitors from the press and staff from other stations. It has been a very busy week, and your supervisor had planned to clean up at the end of the week, along with other more administrative tasks, so this station is not as tidy as usual. A, you are proactive in engaging the rest of the team to participate to ensure that the station is in good order and the condition clean and tidy. B, you ask your colleagues what usually happens in these situations and if any action is required of you in response to the news. C, you acknowledge the importance of the visit and undertake all actions as requested by your supervisor. I would do A, proactive in engaging the rest of the team to participate to ensure that the station is in good order and the condition is clean and tidy.
Yes, that is correct. Do you want an explanation or are you happy to move on?
Actually, they're similar with the letter C, but yes, please. Why is A the answer, not C?
So A is the answer because you actually get the rest of the team to participate. So if you look at C, you acknowledge the importance of the visit. So in A, you're also acknowledging the importance of the visit by engaging your team. And in C, you're just undertaking all the actions as requested by a supervisor. So C would be the second best answer because you, number one, acknowledging it. And number two, you're listening to your supervisor. But in A, you're doing both of those things and you're still engaging your team to also assist.
Okay, gotcha. So for letter A, we're not waiting for orders or just doing our job because we love our job, we're committed to the job. So A.
Yes, but in A, you're still listening to your supervisor's orders, and you're also acknowledging the importance. You're just going one step further by engaging your team as well.
Okay. Let me just reply to a chat real quick. Okay. And the next, a new piece of gas detecting equipment has been introduced recently, and it is important that you know how to use it as it will replace the old equipment. The new gas detector is much more effective at detecting smaller amounts of toxic gases and will make for a much safer rescue environment. You have completed formal training but still feel a little unsure about exactly how it works. So A, you approach the training officer and explain you're not sure you can use it and require some extra training. B, review your training notes when you have some more time to increase understanding. C, be confident that as you pass the training, you will be able to figure it out when you need to. I would go with A because you're already there, so grab the opportunity to ask anyway.
So it is definitely A, but even if you're not there, I'm sure you can still contact the training officer. Because it's a safety operating procedure, it is extremely important that you know how to handle it and how to work with it.
Gotcha. Okay.
So by acting confident, something can go wrong really quickly and really badly. And also by reviewing your training notes, you might not understand it 100% correctly. So rather just approach the training officer and get a proper understanding.
Okay, understood. Thank you. Next, you have recently been unsuccessful for a promotion to station officer. It is the first time that you have applied for this promotion. The feedback indicated that you need more development in a number of areas, including technical aspects of role. You really want to be ready for the next promotion opportunity. You feel that the feedback was a little unfair and that the assessment process focused on only a narrow range of technical skills, which are not frequently used in practice. You have seen other senior colleagues also unsure of these particular techniques and needing to refer back to operating procedures and manuals. A, you decide not to pursue further promotion opportunities as you don't believe the system is fair. B, ask questions to understand exactly what was missing in your application and how you can best address it. And C, accept the decision and continue to apply yourself in your current role as you clearly aren't ready yet. I would go with B. I would ask exactly what was missing so I could improve it and then try again.
Yeah, 100% correct. Yes.
Yay. Okay. Oops. And the next is there has been an incident at the airport where an individual has been injured and your team has been called upon to provide first aid services. When you reach the airport terminal, the scene is chaotic and there are crowds of people trying to see what is going on. A number of the victim's family members are also present, and they are understandably distressed and concerned about the seemingly serious nature of the incident. They are asking a lot of questions and crowding around you as you try to assess the victim. You could really do without the attention from family members at the moment, as you need to focus on the victim and are unsure how to deal with them. So A, you refrain from saying anything to the family before you complete your assessment, as you don't want to mislead them and need to keep focusing on the victim. B, assign one of your team to talk to the family in order to explain what is going on and how the team is going to proceed in assessing the victim. C, ask the family to step back so you can treat the victim effectively and tell them you will talk to them afterwards. I would do with B because in emergency situations we have a team, so it's not a one-man team. It won't hurt to delegate to control the crowd so I can be more effective and focused on the victim. Plus, it's the crowd is always a part of these kinds of situations.
Yes, correct. And also another thing is the family will be freaking out. So also by having your team member calm the family down, that'll also assist in the family's traumatic experience.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. And then next, You're in a team in an extended high-pressured situation as part of a challenging training drill. The team is being rated on how quickly they are able to extinguish a fire involving electricity. You notice a colleague doesn't seem to be coping well in operating a piece of equipment. This is slowing them down and starting to impact on the overall performance of the team. You have used this particular piece of equipment extensively and know that it can be challenging to learn how to operate it well. For this exercise, you have been assigned a different task, but you're finding a challenge to complete, but you can take a short time away from your task without it having a detrimental impact. A, you have expertise here and can help quickly, but you check with a supervisor first. B, you're under pressure too and need to concentrate on ensuring your assigned tasks are completed. C, you don't offer assistance now, but you approach them afterwards and offer to help them learn. Since it's a training drill, and it doesn't have any detrimental impact, I would probably check with my supervisor if I can go and show them real quick what to do. Yeah.
Yes, so A is definitely correct, because it does say in the paragraph above that you, at the last sentence, but you can take a short time away from your task without having detrimental impact. And because it is a training drill, you want to try and address the issue as it happens. Mm-hmm. And also you can't just overstep the supervisor. You have to go ask the supervisor first.
Sure. So for questions like this, we analyze also the paragraph before we analyze the answers, because sometimes the answers are on the paragraphs too.
Yes.
Okay. Next. Okay. You're participating in a training drill with the rest of your team. Your supervisor has designed the drill and is keen for the team to get involved. While the instructions are clear, you don't think the approach they have outlined for the drill is necessarily the best way of handling the situation in the field. You recently attended a course suggesting a different approach to follow in these situations, but you're aware that you have not had the opportunity to discuss this new approach with your supervisor. A, continue with the drill as instructed, as your supervisor has more experience in this type of activity than you. B, ask your supervisor to halt the drill to discuss your own suggestions to maximize the training outcomes. C, follow the instructions given and make your suggestions after the drill when you can have the discussion about the best approach. I would go for C.
Do you understand why you would go for C?
The reason why I would go for C is because it's a training drill and the process is already there. So if I halt it mid-drill, then I might disrupt everything and everyone. So letter C states that there is a room for feedback. So they would probably discuss the outcome of the drill there, and that's where you can offer your recent training or point of view if it's more effective, so it can be applied in future.
Yes, correct.
Okay. And then next, you find it very challenging to work with one particular team member. You have tried to engage with them over the last few shifts, but they don't seem to want to talk to you. No one else in the team seems to have the same challenge with this person. You are worried that the strained relationship will impact when you are on emergency call together, especially if you need to rely on each other. A, continue using your typical style when interacting with a person as you're sure that you will develop a better relationship over time. B, maintain a professional manner, but don't worry about establishing close relationships. C, ask another colleague for advice on how to engage and work more effectively with this person. I'm confused between B or C.
Okay, so this is a bit tricky. Again, I can't give you the 100% accurate answer either. So one of my questions when going through this with Mark is, it depends what the organization wants. So can you, in a firefighter role, by just maintaining a professional relationship, can you rely on the person on a scene? Does that make sense?
Yeah. If since we're both professionals, you don't have to be friends. You can just be workmates and help each other. Something like that.
Yes. Then C can also be an option. However, generally organizations wouldn't want you going to your colleagues to essentially bitch about another employee. Mm-hmm. But in this statement, it's not saying that the person's bitching about another employee, they're actually just asking advice on how to engage better with them, with the employee or colleague. Sorry. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So that is quite tricky. And yeah, it completely depends on what the organization is trying to assess from this.
Yeah.
So the biggest questions, which maybe you can also ask Brent, is do firefighter companies just want a professional relationship maintained?
Okay.
And the biggest thing on that comes in, can they actually rely on someone like that?
Yeah, I would say there needs to be an interpersonal relationship developed because firefighting involves a lot of trust, especially in tricky situations. So we have to have something, a connection at some level.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
then C.
I would go with C if that's
C.
because
If that is the case. Yeah. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Because I'm thinking, what if that person is also awkward because there's something about my personality that they don't understand? So maybe I can adjust.
Yes, definitely. And so the biggest thing is also not everyone knows why another person's motivated or engages a certain way. So by just asking, you're not really ratting on the person, you're asking for advice on how to deal with the person, which is an effective way to manage a relationship.
Right. Okay. So I would go with C for this one.
Yes.
Because like you said, I can just ask, hey, you guys are friends. What can I do?
Yes.
Something like that. Okay. A new team member has started working at the station. You have noticed that when they are communicating over the radio with vehicles out at the airport terminal, they provide a lot of detail about incidents and locations in each conversation. A lot of detail is not necessary and results in the team members often taking a long time to provide the most critical information. In addition, this critical information is not complete, and the crews have to ask a lot of confirmatory questions. Clear and concise communication is important in an emergency situation, and several crew members have complained about the situation. However, the team member in question is trying hard and putting a lot of effort into their new role. So A, you hold back from addressing the team member yet as they are new and see if they improve independently over time before you decide to act. B, talk to the new team member and explain how radio communication is conducted at this station and why being concise is so critical, and advise your supervisor of the discussion. And C, suggest to the team member that they review standard operating procedures of how to communicate over the radio and ask your supervisor if they have any questions. I would go with letter B.
Yes. Do you want an explanation, or are you happy with B?
I think I would explain so others, if I get it right, then I can have others too. I would go with letter B because it's more proactive. So I'm also involved with my teammate. Plus, I'm not criticizing them. I'm giving them advice on why the procedure is important and why we need to stick to what's right. And then I'll let my supervisor know afterwards so they can monitor the progress.
Correct. Okay.
And lastly, you have just returned to the fire station after being called upon to offer first aid assistance. You were able to attend before paramedics, and the speed of response ensured that the situation was dealt with efficiently and to the benefit of the individual who had suffered a heart attack. On the way back, you reflect on how well your colleague dealt with the situation despite the tremendous pressure she felt. She is a new team member who seemed quite anxious on the journey to the incident. A, you take it as evidence that your team is working well and that it all comes as part of the job. You congratulate the team on a job well done. Or B, you decide that you should highlight how well she dealt with the situation to the individual and to the team, acknowledging her good work. C, you decide it would feel awkward and to make a big thing of it and may tell her later in private if the opportunity arises. I would go with letter B. It's nice to celebrate someone's successes in the team, especially if they're new, because it would add confidence in her role.
Yes. So, but however, it could be A or B.
Okay.
Also, I'm not 100% sure on this one. It depends what the company is trying to measure with this question. So what you said about B, but obviously highlighting she's doing well, she's new. This paragraph also states that she seemed anxious. So she definitely needs some form of a pat on the back and a boost of confidence.
Mm-hmm.
However, she dealt with the situation well, and obviously did good work, but it was a team effort.
Yeah.
So A looks at congratulating the team on a job well done. And essentially, you still want to support that teamwork. So she may have done well, but did she do well by herself, or did she do well within the team because the team worked together?
I see. So if they
however, it's very grey which one is correct here, because it depends what they're trying to measure from this. And I don't know what the competency is behind this.
Okay. Gotcha. So it's either A or B. But
yes.
So for talent screeners, because this is the first time I've seen one, there is usually an instruction. I saw an instruction, I just didn't read it. Would it indicate on the instruction what is being measured in the exam usually?
They wouldn't normally. So this is called talent screener, but it's actually something called a situational judgment test. I would need to look at the instructions first. I don't think there was no screenshot of the instructions though. Right. So it might give you, it wouldn't normally, but it might give you a hint or two.
And if, for example, there are no hints whatsoever in the instruction, what should we stick to? Like the job description or the goals of the company profile?
If you have a job description, that's fantastic. Oh. So look, for example, what competencies are in there. And also look at the company profile and that type of stuff. So they emphasize a lot of teamwork, then A might be the best option.
Gotcha. So for ARFF, they're actually the only ones having the talent screener exam. So it would be a great opportunity for applicants to review and take to heart the job description. So we know what they're looking for when we answer the talent screener, right?
Yes, definitely. So if you can get your hands on the job description, that'll be fantastic.